it's a way to start looking within without having to change your whole belief system. So it's a way to sort of, bring the food to people where they are rather than having to get them to come to your restaurant, right? But the thing is, once you start looking at energy work, it's kind of like stealth growth, right? Once you start playing with energy work, no matter what your motivation is, you're going to start noticing more of yourself.
And welcome back to the Consciousness of the Way. I want to welcome to the podcast today. With humility, I know this being has got an incredible resume, but I will just be as soft to say that he is an energy master among many things, a world-renowned author and a wisdom teacher. And we could go on and on and on, but I'm very grateful to have him here today. Welcome to the podcast, Jeffrey.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so great to be here. What a nice introduction. And yeah, I'm looking forward to our conversation. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So energy healing these days has really morphed into something. Personally, I mean, I've spent many decades myself looking at this stuff. And what does it really mean today? What are we really capturing as seekers, we would call it, within Taoism? What are your thoughts on where energy transformation is right now?
Yeah, that's a great question because, I've been into energy healing for, I guess, 30 years now. It's kind of shocking to think about. I'm getting a little older. And even in my somewhat short lifetime, things have changed quite a bit. So the trends that I'm noticing is that, we're sort of culturally, most places in the world are looking outside for answers and outside for healing and outside for wisdom. And that's kind of just what we've been trained to do. It's kind of the world we live in, especially now with just the rise of the internet and information age and just so much information from the outside and access to it that it feels like, I can get online and search and find things and, I can look out there and the solution will be there. And in some ways it's true. You can find information that way. But I think that, energy healing is, in particular, and spirituality in general, is shifting from this current trend of outward seeking to coming back to inward seeking, which is where all those answers lie. Energy healing is something that happens within you and your body. It happens. It's not something that somebody does to you or for you, but you can find great facilitators. We can help each other. So when one person's in their field is in resonance, they've got a lot of coherency in their field, then hanging out with that person, spending time with them, or even just watching a video with them and so on, you're going to start to line up as well. So your field will become coherent as well. And to me, that's what energy healing is all about. It's taking the parts of us that are kind of going all different directions and bringing them back into coherence. And and the trend, like I said, the trend right now is switching from that external awareness to an internal awareness. And it's wonderful, but it's definitely not easy. Even for me, I'm easily distracted by the outside world. I love being in a body and all the wonderful things that we can do with it. And it's okay to have both of these. It's okay to have your sort of fascination with the outside world and this experience, and also have an inner practice. It doesn't have to be kind of one or the other.
Yeah, I would have to agree. It's kind of transformed so dramatically. Yeah. You don't realize, time is forgiving or it isn't. It really depends on how what's your path? What are you walking on? I mean, it seems to be only yesterday. But I would have to say I've committed my consciousness to this experience for the same duration of time you have, and it's like it seems like yesterday. And people have really, in my opinion, kind of changed a lot. They're attempting to deconstruct what really means something to them, and they're looking for solutions that are external instead of things that are more traditional, where they resonate with things that mean something, whether it's a scripture, whether it's an exercise, a practice, a belief system. And it's sort of like all this outer reaching that you and I know very well ends with diminished return. Yet, something as simple as sitting with, the Dharma or the Tao Te Ching, and you might and most likely will find yourself through something as simplistic as that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. The one funny thing or fun thing that happened here in Japan is, excuse me, is Japan has such a different sort of spiritual structure around it than the United States does. In the U.S., I grew up, mostly everybody's into some flavor of Christianity. There's other traditions, but they're the minority. Everybody I knew was kind of, looked like, unfortunately, everybody I knew was kind of white like me, and and everything. And so it's not very diverse where I grew up. And in Japan, I'm on the flip side. So there's maybe 2 or 3% foreigners here. So Japanese culture and Japanese society is almost all Japanese people. And they closed their borders for a couple hundred years when Christianity and other religions were sort of in the expansion phase in Asia. And so Japan's relatively untouched in some ways. They've got a mixture of traditions, and they're all just sort of equally honored. It's just sort of like choose your own. There's kind of this joke that I think they say we're born, is it like born Shinto, married Christian, and die Buddhist? Because those are the people pull from the traditions that they really, that resonate with them and feel good. And they're like, oh, we would love those Christian weddings. We want to have a big Christian wedding. That's so awesome. And I just love the way that the Buddhists do, have this reverence around passing and all that. And so, they're going to do that here. And so it's fascinating for me to see like everything mixed together and people not taking it so serious. Like, oh, there's one thing that's right and everything else is wrong. And instead just really looking for what feels good. What do I resonate with? And I remember being at one of the first times I was at one of the temples here. And it's kind of a mixture, even the temple's a mixture of Buddhism and Shinto kind of together. And just feeling like the presence and the energy and the coherency that, wow, not only has this site itself probably got just some natural resonance, but for thousands of years, people have been here in one form or the other, doing some kind of meditation or prayer or reverence or just gathering. And you can feel it. You can feel that just powerful, tangible energy. And when you're there, you just kind of, if you're open to it, just everything sort of lines up and you can feel all that power. And the fun thing is, it doesn't really matter if it comes from something I'm familiar with. It doesn't matter if I like understand the words around it or the traditions. You can say, oh, everybody's clapping twice and then bowing. Okay, let me try that. It's okay. You still catch the energy. It's like it's not a mental game, right? So it doesn't matter if you understand. It's like, what are you feeling? Are you in the field? Are you catching that wave and letting yourself ride it?
What an interesting point. It is. It's kind of true. I mean, not that I would dismiss anyone's belief system, but it's definitely more from an Eastern perspective that there's this honor and reverence that comes from the experience, meeting and worship, not, dumping their misery every Sunday, hoping for some more misery. And so it's a different way of interacting with their own sort of like wisdom teaching. It seems to be something that is really conflictive in from west to east. It's a phenomenon that I've noticed, which doesn't. It still hasn't caught up here. It's still about how many scoops of ice cream can we get in one little cup?
People are changing. It's kind of fun. I think even the rise of AI right now is going to help a lot. So that's going to take off some of the burden from, I think the reason why people are, the reason why we're all a little confused is that we're just using our minds so much, and we're really validated society. That's how we make money. That's how people think we're respectable and smart. If we can say all the right things, and so we've we're really giving ourselves so much validation that we're all basically stuck in our brains. And so to be able to really tune into your heart, you have to let this turn down a little bit. Not forever. There's nothing wrong with the brain. It's great, but it's hard to, it's overdeveloped. It takes a little time to like, okay, we're going to just pause a little bit on this, let this open up, let myself sort of tune in and feel what's going on, actually be in my body rather than looking at my body in the mirror or on Instagram, or like actually be in my body. Ooh, that's different. And yeah, I mentioned AI. The reason I think that's going to help is that's taking a lot of the burden off the kind of mental side of things. I heard this. It's kind of fun. It was on a podcast. Somebody was saying, "This is my friend. He's like basically before AI, he was the AI. You could ask him any question. He had all the answers. He knows everything." And the guy said, "Yeah, I don't ever use ChatGPT or AI now because it feels like it's cheating." And I was laughing because I was like, I kind of feel for this guy because his identity is wrapped up in knowing everything, and now everybody knows everything. And that without any effort, you just open up the app and say, "Hey, can you just tell me everything?" And sure, it'll tell you anything. It's like, oh, suddenly there's no the scales are sort of balancing. There's not just a few people that studied hard or learned all the right words that are now the smart people. All of a sudden, everybody's smart because it's we've outsourced that. This is fantastic. This takes it takes a little bit of that validation off that and invalidation too, and suddenly people are more free to say, "Oh, what's interesting to me? How do I want to live? How do I want to show up? How am I relating to people?" And so I think AI is really going to help us, at least the people that can adopt it and not be too afraid of it.
Yeah, that's an interesting crossroads, my friend. It's like I'm interested. So you came from a background which would, in definition, be highly intellectualized from a perspective of I think an engineer. Were you an engineer at one point?
Yeah. I was a software engineer for 15 years. So I worked for the U.S. government. Originally, I worked for the Department of Energy, which is kind of funny. And I did worked in corporate America and startups, and so my background is math and science, and I still think like that and probably talk like that even though I don't know it. But all the way along, very early on, I was also interested in like consciousness, like what's happening behind the scenes. I know I'm learning all this stuff, but I'm having experiences that, in addition to the things I'm learning, I want to know what's happening. Like either I'm nuts or there's something really magical that I don't understand that's happening in the world. So I'm gonna lean in and see what that is.
And so, what was the allure? Where did it take you? I mean, energy in definition is such a huge, limitless possibility. What excited you or kept you searching and inquiring about this phenomenon of something beyond the tangible?
Yeah, probably two things. One was just my general tendency to get bored with the external world. Like I remember, it hasn't been hard for me to succeed at things. I can play the game well, and so, but I'll find myself like, okay, I've checked all the boxes. I've got like the house, the job, the car, whatever. I've got all the things that I've done the American dream, but is this it? Because one, it doesn't feel really any different than it 5 years ago, and two, like this is all people do. I remember sitting with my friend at dinner, and I was like, "What do people do after work? Like they just like this? They just go to like a bar or restaurant and talk to their friends and get drunk and like I mean that's it? Like it's like it seems like there's something bigger that I'm missing here." So that general boredom with the external world was one thing that drove me. But also, if I'm totally honest, my path into energy work and intuition also came from that part of me that wanted to know all the answers. That, it's like, oh, if I know more, I can make better choices. I can take shortcuts. So I saw intuition still from sort of this tool perspective. Is it like a little superpower I can develop that'll help me succeed in the external world more? But even though that's where I started, once I started practicing intuition and using it, this surprising transformation happened where suddenly I'm losing track of my initial motivation, which was to like get stuff or make good choices. And suddenly I'm just fascinated by the experience. Like, whoa, like who are we? Like, what's going on here? Like all of a sudden, like just, kind of like my eyes were opening to this whole new reality. And it's like, I totally forgot that the reason I was there was to like get stuff done. All of a sudden it was just all about personal discovery. There's this side to us that we all have that is amazing, that most people don't really tap into. And that was the hook. That's what drove me deeper and deeper and deeper. Is just what are these superpowers that all humans have, and how do I develop them, and then how do I help other people develop them, or even really discover them? It's not even development. Yeah.
And so, what was sort of the catalyst for that? I mean, within Taoism, I've been teaching people alchemy for over 30 years, and it's very satisfying from a perspective of, we look at everything as a creation, completion, and then rebirth. So, the average bear would not even associate it, but it's emanating through them right down to going and opening a door, and they're compelled to close it because it's part of the cycle within this reality.
Yeah.
And it's like, I always challenge someone. It's like, well, if you don't believe this is present, go to a door, open it, and see what it takes for you not to close it after you. And they're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I have this thing that's driving me and I didn't recognize it. I'm like, that's the beauty of self-realization.
Yeah.
And so what was it that, what fascinated you most, or you started cultivating more of, that gave you that recognition and sort of experience that would make it true to you?
Yeah, there's that's funny because as you're talking, sort of the I don't know why, but maybe a little more vulnerable stuff is coming up for me to share today. So I'm looking at my, kind of, if I look back now at my motivations, even though at the time I may have been saying the motivation was to, become enlightened, or whatever the term was at the time. Looking back now, I recognize most of my motivation was trying to be somebody other than myself. There was like this, and the reason I say this, I think a lot of people are in this space where, they're looking up to somebody has something that they think they don't have. And so, and it could be, I see this in students sometimes. They're like really excited, like, oh, you've accomplished all this stuff. I want to be just like you. Mm-hmm. And I say, well, there's a little catch there, because I've been down that road several times where I wanted to be like somebody that I thought was better than who I was. And it usually takes me about 7 years to like make a big pivot like that and sort of take on this new reality. And sort of pretty soon it looks like I've become that person that I wanted to become. And as soon as that happens, I always realize this isn't really any different, and this isn't really me. And so then but it took a long time for this to develop. So I went from I was a software engineer. Like I said, I had check all the boxes. I was married. We just had our beautiful daughter, and then that I was like, oh, this doesn't have much to do with me either. And then that kind of unraveled. Next 7 years, I'm like, okay, so now I'm a divorced single guy. I'm a software engineer. I'm a rock climber. I started picking up some other habits. So that became my identity. And then 7 years later, I'm like, okay, I've checked all those boxes, and I'm kind of bored, and I don't think this is fully me either. So then I looked at my spiritual teachers, and I thought, oh, those guys have it together. I want to be one of those spiritual teachers. Like, they're teaching energy work. They're talking about, all this amazing behind the scenes stuff. So I'm going to study and become just like them, right? But the same thing happened. Then I get to that where that's very successful, and I realize, I did it again. This isn't really me either. Okay. And that's when I started to notice, if we're trying to become like the people that we see outside, we're missing the point that the reason that we admire those people is that they're being themselves. Somebody you admire, no matter what they're doing, if they're fully being themselves, they shine. they're bright, they're smiling, they're excited, they're like, it doesn't matter what they're doing. And that's what we admire about them. So to become like them, we have to we have to be ourselves, right? Like, you can't become like somebody else and still be yourself, right? So this is one of the big confusions that we have. So and once you kind of get that, then the question is like, yeah, okay, well, who am I? That's suddenly I start, instead of looking outward, I'm looking inward. What is and first thing we start turning inward is all the judgments about the person I am. Is there's something wrong with me? So you got to go through all these layers of sort of letting that go and saying, actually, totally okay. I just want to find out who I actually am, whether good, bad, beautiful, ugly. I'm just going to try to let that go and like just look with clarity. And over time, when you can do that, even in a moment, people get there. You get that clarity. All of a sudden, you realize, oh, I'm pretty cool. I didn't have to change. I was actually a pretty interesting person all the way along. I was just trying to add all this extra stuff, this extra flavor that maybe wasn't even necessary. It's okay, but it wasn't necessary. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it reminds me, we always start with something as simplistic as, let the man who's never left the village, let him know he's seen the world. It's like,
Yeah, nice.
it's all right inside of you. And, I mean, we speak of it so casually, and many people believe it's the nirvana sort of experience. I've arrived. Yet, to be thyself requires no participation from yourself. People's head just explode.
What?
A lot of my students are like, Jifu, my head exploded. And well, that's the beauty of the symbiosis of yin and yang. It's coming from one stream, and it creates or distorts what you're perceiving and experiencing right now. And that's the magical part of the rite of passage we refer to as the Taoist rite. You find that, and when people sort of go, well, I'm really compelled to want to know more and be inspired by this alchemy that you're teaching, yet I'm a little apprehensive because of my own conflicts with my identity, my belief system, and whatnot. So that's fine. This is a template, a blueprint of your own self-mastery. And once you realize, you go from something that many of my Buddhist monk friends that love the monastic path would refer to, a dualistic, non-dualistic, centric, non-centrist perspective. Once you find that vesica and you walk through that primordial gate, you realize that you are all things and nothing. And then all of that disappears, the need for any of it.
Yeah.
People, what?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's amazing. It's so hard to put it into words, the kind of experience of kind of growing up and or growing in, or just sort of fully manifesting who we are into this experience. It's difficult to put into words because it's an experience. It's not intellectual concept. Yeah.
Yeah, it just refers back to, I always tell people, if you're thinking, you're not knowing. If you're knowing, you're feeling. And that in of itself is a head screw, because a lot of my more advanced students, they get to a point where they're now deciphering. Once they hit that wall of feeling, they don't rewind backwards into the emotion and the thought. They then just open their arms to surrender and fall back into the void. And once mastered, you can really enjoy that blissful state of what I refer to, or we refer to, as an eternal, immortal, forever self, which is a constant. Whereas the wave of information is an energy potential, but it's like a crescendo from a firecracker. It hits a point and then it folds back into itself.
Yeah. That's everything you're saying there reminds me of my wife's teaching, Spirit Mind. And my wife Hisami, she's really interesting because she's, unlike me, I grew up sort of in the material world and really focused on just, living the American dream, being successful, and then this was sort of a side journey that overtook me, with learning about spirituality, energy work, and so on. But she was completely the opposite. She never, for whatever reason, she never lost touch with that oneness. She never really entered the dualistic mindset. And even now when she talks about it, it's basically in threes. She'll say, well, you're talking from this dimension here where there's, good and bad and polarity. But I'm actually not even talking about that at all. I'm talking from here where there's unity. I'm talking from spirit mind, and you're talking from material mind. That's the terminology she uses. And but it's the funny part was it took me quite a while. Hisami and I still don't speak a common language well, but at the beginning we really didn't, and so it took quite a while for me to kind of understand, even through interpreters, what she was talking about. And right away, and I see this in almost everybody that I share things with. I'm sure you're different, but it's very easy to. Everybody wants to apply this dualistic mindset even to divinity and say, okay, great. So if there's a dualistic and a non-dualistic, well, that's two things still, and one's good and one's bad, right? And you're like, no, actually, one is good and bad, and the other one is. Right? That's it. So, good, bad, and here, right? It's not even zero. It's not plus, minus, and zero. It's really hard to put into words because all of our words and language are around the dualistic material world. So, yeah, kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I try and craft it. Well, I don't craft it. I mean, the metaphysics of Tao is sort of simplistic, yet it has a 5-level awareness, and then we add another 4 for our own alchemy. But it starts with the animation of the primordial mother, which is everything. That she animates the consciousness animates the spirit animates the energy animates the body. And the body is nothing more than the material world that is a low frequential, distorted energy potential. And so what I get people to see is, well, you proclaim that you are the I am of the I am, yet you're really just playing with what I refer to as the spiritual baby shit, which is between the energy and the body. Yeah. So the potential is when you meet attention and intention, that evokes your eternal immortal spirit self. And that means that you can actualize things within the material state that are not impermanent. They are permanent. And that only comes from the ability to actualize that. Other than that, it's a delusional thing. I mean, just as I spoke on those very few things, we unified and communed with the energy that is not separating us. It's electrifying and magnifying this present moment. And that's the beauty of what we speak of, because the feeling, it's not a bunch of jobbled words. What do you think of that?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's it's having an experience that changes us. That's how we understand who we are, how we get more in touch with this sort of what seems non-tangible at first, but is actually ever present and totally tangible. Once you're able to tune into it. It's the experience that gets us there. We can't really think our way out of overthinking things. Like if the challenge of the day is to stop overthinking, there's no 10-step formula to stop overthinking, right? You can't it's like trying to schedule spontaneity. Every day from 2 to 2:30, I'm going to be spontaneous. This doesn't make sense, right? And so there's but what makes sense is just being in the moment, in the experience. If you're walking and fully present and breathing and looking around you, it's that's the kind of experience that'll shift things. I remember one time I was actually it was the first workshop I taught with Hisami, my wife. We were in San Diego, and I was walking across the parking lot, and we were walking from maybe from the little cafe. We were getting some breakfast. We were walking back to where we were going to be teaching, and everything was different. And what was different was I noticed that as I was walking, everything was sort of going like this, moving up and down. because that's what your head does. It sort of bobs up and down as you walk, right? And I had never noticed that in my life before. And all of a sudden I'm like, what's happening? I'm like, oh, what's happening is I'm actually in my body. I'm actually right behind my eyes. I'm present. I'm experiencing this physical reality authentically rather than filtering it through the virtual reality of my mind. I'm not interpreting reality. I'm just in it. And to me, that simple thing, walking across the parking lot and noticing that, I'm like, this is what I've been looking for. I'm trying to get all of me here out of my, like I said, out of the virtual reality of my mind and into the physical reality, because I'm embodied here. Why wouldn't I just fully go for it? Like, be here. If you're here and you got a body, there's a reason. Like, you wanted it. It's no accident or surprise. Nobody. It's not torture to be here. Like, just enjoy it while you're here. There's beautiful things, but also be fully present. It's like I said, it's kind of hard to put into words, but I think the place that's challenged me the most, I see challenging others the most, is this, like I said, I call it the virtual reality of the mind, is this full belief system of how things work, what we're supposed to do, what's good and bad, right and wrong. And that's so compelling that it's easy to lose touch with even the simple things, both in the body and in the spirit. Yeah.
No, I mean, it really is an endpoint. We refer to, what you're speaking of as, someone may refer to it as the now moment. It's a solidifier. We refer to it as Wu Ji, the primordial mother. So between the breath in and the breath out is the gateway to your eternal immortal self. And that's where you actualize things, and you can create what we call absorbing the riches, where you're now solidifying what would be an impermanence into a permanence in a world that is impermanent. How does that happen? Stream of what someone might refer to as consciousness, we refer to as wu-wei, which is effortless action, effortless effort. It's like a serendipitous, synchronistic moment of now. And that's like the Shazam moment, for you and I. We might remember that from the good old days of the silver screen or something within, pop culture. Shazam is those two energies collide or are formed as one, which is really what yin and yang really means. It's like, okay, now you are 100% now.
Yeah.
And that arrival is always happening. It's happening right now, yet it's much more of an interesting adventure to make it suffering and long and enduring road to turn back and come back to where you're standing.
Yeah. That's the big spiral to get back to, in some ways the same place, but in a different way. Yeah.
Right. So when you implement there must have been something that was the catalyst for your interest in energy. How did you integrate that? Was there anything like, did you have maybe a Hindu practice or an energy practice of some kind that would have drawn you to having a deeper understanding of it?
Yeah, I had when I got started, there was no internet. So you kind of go to the bookstore, maybe pick up a cassette tape or something. But I followed a couple of channelers for a while. That was kind of fun and interesting. I really liked Thich Nhat Hanh, like just fantastic. Just I could feel that there was something really tangibly different about his presence. And so I used to listen to a lot of his tapes. And but for my practice came through a school. It was actually called Psychic Horizon Center in Boulder, Colorado. And like I said, I was interested in intuition, and somebody said, well, there's a school you can go to for that. I was like, there's a school you can go to and learn that? And yeah, they teach energy healing. They teach psychic reading. I'm like, I don't know what to say. I don't even know if that stuff's real, but I want to go find out, right? And so, Psychic Horizons was one of the many schools that teaches Berkeley Psychic Institute style. So it's grounding the body, running your energy, working with the aura, chakras. It's it kind of came in around the 70s from Louis Bostwick, who had traveled and learned many traditions and kind of packaged them up in a way that he thought was best suited for California in the 70s, right? And so that's the tradition that I got deeply into. So it was, really tangible energy tools that I could study, practice, see how it influenced me, how it influenced my relationships, all these things. And that was my grounding for a long time. And all the energy work that I teach at Mindvalley is based out of that tradition, plus my experiences over the years of integrating that in my stories and journey on that path. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Mindvalley. That must be a really powerful sort of crossroads or place of a birthing ground for many people. I can't remember the name of the founder, but I do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How do you pronounce his name?
Vishen Lakhiani.
Vishen. Yeah. He. I've heard many of his stories where he was just like looking for something more and found it, and then he started something so simplistic, and then it just blossomed into this crazy thing where he was really just sharing more and more of this experience with the world. And now you have Mindvalley as you know it, which seems to be an incredible, inspiring place for many people to find themselves.
Yeah. Mindvalley is great. It's really, for me, it was an opportunity to reach people that I wasn't reaching otherwise. So before Mindvalley, I was teaching mostly in-person classes, and we might have 100 people. Sometimes we'd have, 5 people, just kind of depended on the audience and the format and the duration and so on. But it was mostly people like me. It was people who were looking for, they are already convinced that there's something internal. So the journey was a spiritual journey. And what Mindvalley gave me the opportunity to do was to take the same teaching and bring it to people that were wanting that but didn't know it. So people that were saying, I want to manifest, I want to make more money, I want to show up in my relationship in a different way. And so all these really tangible kind of external world, material world things. And energy work helps for all those things. What do you know? If you're more yourself and you're more present, more grounded, everything's easier. And so for me, it's really exciting. It's like, I get to reach, the people that I couldn't reach at all before, because I just couldn't. Not everybody can walk into a place called Psychic Horizon Center. That word is just too much for almost everybody, especially back when I went there. Now it's, you can say intuition or energy work and people don't just laugh you out of the room. But that wasn't always the case. 20 years ago, when I was a software engineer, I didn't want to tell people I was doing energy work or intuition because I might lose my security clearance. I might lose the respect of my peers. I might, it's like, now it's okay. Everybody talks about energy work, meditation, and even if they don't understand what they're talking about, those words aren't scary anymore. And hopefully I've helped. Hopefully part of being able to reach a broader audience and live in both worlds. Like I said, I really enjoy the external world too. But I'm more and more throughout my life, I was able to see it from the perspective of love rather than competition and separation and conquering. And it doesn't mean you have to exit this world, but when you start seeing it from love and connection and oneness, well, everything gets really different. It gets much juicier, much more interesting, and really, really fulfilling. Which is what I think most people were seeking when they say, I want more stuff, I want more enlightenment, I want more manifesting. People are really wanting to just feel fulfilled. And it's easier than you think. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned a nice hot topic for most people, manifestation, right? It seems to be the catalyst for most people's desire. That if they really look at their desire, it's really coming from something divine. That is more than just something as limited as a handbag or $1 million or something like that. Yet many people are are sharing or their version of how they find that.
Mhm.
Now, for a Taoist, it's frequency, as is everything, right? Yet
Mhm.
understanding that it comes right down to energy potential. Energy potential has a vibratory frequential resonance. If you hold it, oh yes, it will be yours, or yes, it will. But the question is can you hold it? Are you able to maintain it? Because that means you're returning to who you really are, which is whole. And so that the selfishness to the selflessness requires the sacrifice. And the sacrifice is identity, personality, finite mind. It doesn't require you per se participating in your remembrance of your true self. And people just go, oh my goodness, I don't know where are we going now? You and I can have shop talk like this, and we 1,000,000% are in the very present moment of emanating the true self as wholeness. Yet for someone that wants to acquire a manifestation of some kind, what would you recommend would be a path of beginnings for them?
Sure. Yeah. So, it depends on where people are in their journey, because if manifesting means to you, uh, like a new car, a new house, if manifesting just means, I need some more cool stuff. I want to upgrade my lifestyle. And nothing wrong with that at all. Like, I think we should all upgrade our lifestyle if we want to, then sure, that sounds good. But if that type of manifesting, I would probably recommend get into some energy work. Start to learn some tools for, like, okay, if I ground myself, I'm more present, and so I'm better in this meeting when I'm talking, or I'm more compelling, or my thoughts feel more clear. Learn how to work with the chakras, and notice that, oh, I'm manifesting in many ways, just on that level in many ways comes from, I have a inspiration kind of up here, some divine inspiration. It kind of comes in here. I start thinking about it, or I start expanding it in the third eye. I start talking about it. Now we're talking like fifth chakra. Now I'm getting enthusiastic about it. I'm starting to, like, really want to do something. But so far, I probably, if you can get all the way down to here, so far, probably all you've done is bought a domain name or something, right? You probably haven't really gotten very far. Right? You're thinking a lot and loving it and talking about it, but suddenly at some point you have to get back into, like, the third chakra, actually manifesting in the world, taking action. Second chakra, circulating that energy, that life force through it, and then eventually grounding it in a way that even if you walk away, that whatever you created has a life of its own. You've sort of planted the tree, and it can grow, from all the way from spirit, from idea, all the way into the physical world. And so anywhere along there, it's easy to find a place where we have sort of an undeveloped expertise. Like, it might be the fifth chakra for somebody, or it might be the third chakra for somebody. And so that's just one system of so many ways to look at things, but that's one system you can look at energy wise and say, oh, wow, I always get stuck in the same place. Ah, good. I can look at that and try to improve in that way, or maybe I can find somebody that's good at that naturally and sort of buddy up with that person. we can collaborate on something. And so this type of energy work is really applicable for people that are looking to manifest things in the material world. And so it's a way to start looking within without having to change your whole belief system. So it's a way to sort of, bring the food to people where they are, rather than having to get them to come to your restaurant, right? But the thing is, once you start looking at energy work, it's kind of like stealth growth, right? Once you start playing with energy work, no matter what your motivation is, you're going to start noticing more of yourself. And you're going to start seeing yourself more honestly and with less judgment. And so as these things happen, as we stop judging ourselves and we start becoming more ourselves, feel more free to be ourselves, suddenly we're not judging other people as much. They're more free. Everything starts to change. And then, even though you got into that work, you got into manifesting because you wanted to make more money and have cool stuff, all of a sudden you're still doing that. You don't have to say, I'm going to give that all up. You can still do that. But all of a sudden, I don't even care about that stuff anymore. It's like, now I've got this whole new motivation of, like, self-discovery, right? So So that's why I love energy work, is it's like a nice on ramp. It can go from wherever you're at, uh, and help bring you into a next version of your consciousness, or next version of your desires. Also, but if somebody is kind of through that, if somebody's kind of a little bit later in their later in their development and interest, if somebody's just interested in pure spirituality, I probably wouldn't send them that way. I'd probably say, oh, go take the spirit mind training with my wife Hisami and I, because it's probably quite similar uh, to what you're teaching, what your experiences are. Her way of describing things feels very similar, in my naive perspective of Taoism. And, so it's like she's in that family. She's not in the family of make more money, have more stuff. She loves stuff too. I think it's totally okay to enjoy money and objects and things and our bodies, but that's not her motivation. She's always looking from the perspective of love, how to make things, like Hisami is really interesting. She says, her main thing is she's always seen energy and energy potentials, and she can see, like, this person is going down a very difficult road. They're choosing to create needless conflict and suffering for themselves. And if I can talk to them and help to, like, just change them a few degrees, just a little bit, push them in a slightly different direction, or invite them in a different direction, that needless suffering and conflict is needless, right? So maybe they'll want to go around it. So she's always trying to create a more beautiful, graceful way in the world for her and for everybody around her. And unfortunately, it doesn't always work, because people, for whatever reason, we tend to be drawn to our dramas. And we just want to hit them again and again and again. But it does help to at least know that it's unnecessary. And when you start learning this type of work, the spirit mind work that she teaches, that I've been teaching and learning from her, it's suddenly things, you start noticing what you're doing and being self-aware, like, oh, I'm moving in a difficult direction. Even though I think it's a good idea, I also know that that's not where my soul actually wants to go. I know I don't need to go down that path again. And it's like, so you can have both of those parts of you. Like, here's the part of me that's driving toward drama, and then here's part of me saying, maybe there's something easier. Maybe I'm ready to try something else. I don't know what it is, but I'm just going to say no instead of yes this time, and see what shows up. And that's so two very different paths. One is very tangible to things you can do, energy work, and one is very much just self-awareness and presence, and seeing how that changes everything. And two very different roads.
That's an incredible insight, my friend. I mean, you've also been exploring this consciously for many decades. A lot of people that I find end up on my doorstep are what I consider spiritually bypassing their potential, because they don't create the foundational work. It's like building a house with no foundation.
Yeah.
And they poo-hoo it. I mean, 30 years ago, if I had someone come to me with a psychotic break, which would be considered more something in the lines of, bipolar, schizophrenia, things of that nature, my part of my ordinance as a priest is very ancient ritualistic processes, i.e. exorcisms, absolutely part of the process from my monastery. And I would help them find and exercise energy and regain their dominion over their energy potential. But that is a very, very real thing as you start to integrate these energies. Now, 30 years later, that same person would wake up and they're channeling the Palladians, open up a YouTube channel and get 100,000 followers. So with that, there is the potential. And what I've realized is they always end up finding I am Brahman, I am cosmic consciousness, I am wholeness. Yet because they bypassed or refused entry to the foundational work for their own house building, they end up finding a diminished return. So they find nirvana, and then they become introverted. Like, all the energy comes in, we refer to it an excessive amount of yin, because yin is the absorption of all colors,
Hmm.
and your body cannot hold it, cannot maintain that level of intuitive state that should be natural to you. Yet
Yeah.
you have to, this avatar is for you to experience this human experience, but you can't maintain it if it starts to get corrupted. And I noticed that you made it very clear, hey, let's go down the chain of energy potential. For a Taoist, it's Dantian. You refer to it as chakra. Yet when we fortify things and solidify them and have it flowing, the energy between the emotion and the virtue, which is how we see the Dantians, you balance the energy. Of course, bingo, the virtue is revealed.
Yeah.
And that part of like that cultivational practice and that very intimate relationship you have with thyself. And many people go, I'm going straight to Brahman. That's fantastic. But I promise you, every single time, and this has been on for decades, people get there, arrive, they pass, go, get $200, and then their body starts, the hubcaps start coming off the wheels. And it's like this weird phenomenon, where it's not really, because both you and I understand you must put in the layered foundational work that's necessary so that you can be self-realized and actualized as such.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because you did sort of like talk about that. I feel like you were going in the same direction as what I was speaking on.
Yeah. It's I'd agree with you. It just, my own experience. I've done the same thing as that you're talking about. So it's just it's easy to to kind of want to pretend that I'm in a certain state, or to notice like, oh, at times I'm able to reach this really high vibration, this really coherent state. And then if I haven't really let go of my ego, or sort of recognize that it is my ego, then it's really easy to get caught up in that, and somebody be like, hey, I got this cool thing now like I'm super special, I'm super enlightened, I'm doing it's my wife calls it this C zone. She says this natural state of sort of awakening. You get to this point where like you're starting to align your actions with your actual desires, your inner desires, and it's working. Like I switched from a software engineer to an energy healer, right? And it might be something as simple as people changing their diet. They're like, hey, I just decided that I want to be more plant-based, and so, or I need to meditate more, or I'm going to do yoga instead of just sitting on the couch, or whatever the practice is. We do some kind of practice, and it's working. We're seeing results, and we think that who we are today is better than who we were yesterday. And so suddenly when we look around us, all the people that are who we were yesterday are less than who we are today too. And so even though we've hit this, this enlightened state in some way, it's coupled with self-righteousness, right? And so it's funny because it happens all the time, but I don't think many people talk about it. And this is something I really got from my wife, Hisami. She helped me see this, and I was like, oh, you're so right. Why is it when, like all of a sudden you reach this state and you're like, I'm fantastic, I'm vegan, but everybody that eats meat is terrible. I'm meditating, and if you're not, you're an idiot. And I'm doing yoga, and if you're not, you're like, okay, if you're so enlightened, why are you also so judgmental? You know what I mean? It's like, that's the thing we ask ourselves at some point. And that's when it all kind of falls apart. And that's when you're talking about not doing the foundational work and just trying to jump to the top. It's like you jump to the top, but you're still primarily operating from a dualistic mindset of comparison and competition. And if I do that, if I'm still operating from that mindset, it doesn't really matter where I am. It's all the same game. It's just different words. I just have different, instead of having like a new car and a new bag and a new watch, I have a new title and a new degree and a new energy work class. You know what I mean? So it's basically the same game but we've sort of reskinned it as spirituality. And so yeah, the fundamentals are more important than the outward appearance of where you're at. but it's, it's hard to see these things because it's hard to see ourselves and laugh at ourselves, and to see that, like I said, what I came to the conclusion was that for me personally, it's not the other people outside that I'm judging. It's me comparing myself to and thinking that I'm who I was before was somehow bad. Now it's my I used to tune in a lot and talk to my spirit guides in the morning, and uh, one time they told me this when I was in Sedona. I'd been laid off. I got myself laid off and managed to be, kind of switch careers and stuff. And I was meditating, and I would just amazing simple guidance would come in. So one time I'm tuning in and I heard kind of like, it wasn't in words, it just kind of all comes at once, but I'll put it into words. It was basically like, this week your mission is to love yourself. But it just came more like, love who you are, right? So okay, and so I was like, "Whew, that's a big challenge." So I spent a week like really working on it, and a whole week later, I felt like I'd mastered that, which is comedy right there. And so I came back and I was like, "Okay, I think I got it. I think I did. I think I can, in some ways, love who I am." And so then I heard, "Great, now love who you were." And I was like, "Oh boy," because the reason I got to the state where I thought I can love who I am was by comparing myself and saying that I've grown. Like I love who I am because I'm not who I was last week or last year or 10 years ago. And it's like, oh, wait a sec. If that's not really loving who I am, is it? So it's, just that simple change, love who you were, all of a sudden, a whole new concept. And since then, I tell this story quite a bit that, on New Year's, I like to look back over the year and kind of just remember where I was a year ago. And there's always some part where I look back and say, oh, it's so cute. Like a year ago, I was thinking that or believing that or really into this particular thing. And now I've sort of grown past that desire, that need, that attachment, whatever it was. But I also know that next year, when I'm sitting down looking at myself today, I'll have the same feeling of amusement, of like kind of chuckling at who I am today. And that's going to continue, I imagine, for my entire lifetime, because once that's finished, there's really no exciting need to be here, right? And so that recognition that that's my forever state, is looking back at myself with love and amusement, sort of freed everything up. Suddenly it's okay. It's okay to be who I am today and not be perfect. And if that's okay for me, then what do you know? All of a sudden it's okay for everybody else too. It's okay for everybody to be right where they're at. In many ways, everybody is ahead of me in some way and behind me in a different way, or beside me, like none of that has any meaning whatsoever. It's just like seeing it all from love, from that infinite love space. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, that's kind of like first time I ever saw your face. And that childlike state is like the wonderment. I have 6 children of my own, and I get to enjoy life currently through their lens. I mean, they're from the
That's
age of 13 all the way down to 1.5 years of age. So it's a chaotic perfection mess in of itself that returns to wholeness just through their experience on a daily basis. And it's like that unity. It's like you just get back to the basics. And,
Yeah.
I feel like the fundamental potential hurdles that most energy healers come to is they arrive. They're a Brahman, they're conscious, cosmic consciousness, or however they perceive themselves, and then they don't condition themselves to a foundational understanding, which dissolves that impermanent sort of personality and finite mind through that energy potential. You're cultivating your way into the center and then dissolving from that center point. Yet Most of them go, I'm a psychic, I'm a medium. I woke up, I can hear grandma, and I see auras, and I can read people, and it's very exciting. There's no question about it, and we all get to that point. That I think the biggest issue that people have is because it's a badge of honor and identity-wise, they tend to spend their currency on that. So instead of identifying as a wholeness, they recognize themselves as the persona. I'm the psychic, I'm the medium, I'm the healer. And this is where I call it you're selling your soul in relation to your own currency, your human body's currency. Its potential is being drained because you're actually handing it off. As every time you have an experience, you're healing someone in an event, you're doing this, you're doing that, instead of returning to the wholeness that we refer to the mother, which is eternal, immortal, forever. That means that you never ever drain the physical potential, and it's always full, it's always robust, the cup is always overflowing. But there's a mastery that comes with that sort of energy synergy that when people refuse to want to, that's simple, silly. I don't need to worry about that. I'm now, and you see that diminished return. Over 36 years doing this, I have watched most healers, energy healers that commit to that. They're dead between 40 and 60, and they never really make it past 7. I've seen hundreds of them because they literally spend their wealth of their energy. Instead of recognizing that as a whole, you never have to tap into the potential of their 50 trillion cells. What do you think about that? Have you seen it before?
Yeah, it's super easy to do. I mean, just there's a certain allure or draw to people saying, "Wow, you're helping me. You're teaching me. You're a healer, a teacher," or there's the ego loves that. It feels good. It feels good to be seen and to be recognized, to like stand in your power. But it's really easy to also then, like you're saying, to be kind of not giving away so much. It's kind of like losing focus. It's like the external world, the validation from the outside becomes so alluring that we just kind of forget. I just like I can forget. Right. It doesn't matter if I'm helping a bunch of people, if I'm not enjoying my life because I'm so depleted and drained. It's like, it doesn't matter if I could reach 1 million people, but the result is I just need to binge Netflix all day to recover, like somehow it's like, okay, so there's this balance that needs to happen but I like the way you put it, where the cup is always overflowing. And, from that state, great. The overflow is what goes to others. That's one of the fundamental things I learned in doing healing that I used to teach when I taught healing work was, just take a moment at the beginning, tap into whatever healing flow you're letting go through you, whether it's Christ force energy, the universe, or, ascended masters or whatever, or just pure energy that's coming through. Like, tune into that and then just take a moment and let it flow through you until you're 100% full. And then the overflow goes to the person, that's on the table or in the chair in front of you. And you can just feel grateful, like, thank you for reminding me to show up and fill myself up because I had forgotten. I primarily remember, speaking for myself, I primarily remember when I'm doing it for somebody else. And then I remember, oh yeah, I can tap in and be totally full. And then the overflow is going to everybody else. And we're all happy. And then hopefully they're realizing that it doesn't have to come through me. It didn't have anything to do with me. I just happened to remember that I could do that. Somebody reminded me, and then I'm reminding them. But it has nothing. I don't need to be. I'm not the middleman. I'm just another person, right? So, now I have a question for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really like something you said about about channeling and exorcism, and I'm curious of your experience, because when I was studying intuition, and mediumship was a big part of it, was kind of intuition, healing, and mediumship were kind of the three areas. And I took a channeling class, about a 5-year program, learning how to really get out of body, how to channel, how to do, I worked with lots of ghosts. I did a lot of exorcisms where people would just find me and I could look at them and say, well, I can help, but I don't know if you really want to know what's going on. But if we just get those 3 beings out of you, that's really going to help a lot. You're going to feel a lot better because there's more room for you. It's your body after all. But the question for you though is that, so I went through a deep time of really practicing that, but that sort of shifted at some point and I stopped. And so I'm kind of curious, did it shift for you too? Is that still something you're seeing that's coming up as a tool you want to use? Or was it part of my journey that stopped, or was it something that timing wise that stopped for all of us?
Well, yeah, your cup's over full. And so there's no more of a contending with what could be potentially a heightened sense of excitement with fueled by fear to resolve what is coming or potentially is coming. One of the things specifically within exorcisms is there's no room for fake it till you make it in that type of environment.
Yeah.
And it's part of your commitment to the exploration of that. It's exciting to discover other energies. Personally, when you commit to something that is potentially low frequential state, it attaches to nodes within the person's timeline, and then furthermore, it starts to distort it and create this kind of false light. And then you go deeper and you recognize someone as mastered as yourself can see it instantaneously. Then you create a negotiating sort of scenario with these energies and finally exercise them. But fear is sort of like, okay, I've achieved this part of my own remembrance, and it's kind of like, it's such a profound level of completion that you can come to that point, because many people, they become fixated. So, if I teach someone something as internalized as, say, levitation or other levels of alchemy, where it's an emanation of the body, where you can desensitize the body and do things to it that you wouldn't be able to do naturally without the ability to activate and actualize that energy. You came to completion. It was like, okay, I've now remembered that. Perfect.
Yeah.
Moving right along that pathway is wholeness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. There was a time I was actually kind of reformulating the mediumship teaching into something I was teaching in Japan. So I had a long program, multi-year program, and we had different levels. And I just added at the end the part that I didn't learn in school, which was the very last one. I said, okay, so now that you know how to get out of your body and let somebody else get in your body, and you know how to do all this healing work for that, the punchline is, don't do that anymore. So level 5 was, okay, stop. That's good. The reason I got into mediumship was that I was, me personally, was basically an out of control medium. Stuff was just coming through all the time and I didn't know it. And they would say, we'd call us raging trance mediums. That was kind of the joke in those circles. And but over time, so I learned to do it. You learn how to do something consciously. It's kind of like somebody who stutters. If you stutter, try stuttering consciously, and suddenly you'll learn how to stop. Right? Same kind of thing. So learn how to channel consciously, and then eventually get to the place where it's like, okay, I think the best aligned state would be for me to just be myself, do my best to just bring myself in, and then notice when there's other influences there, just lovingly say thank you, no thank you, let them go, come back more to me. Basically stop. All this training came down to don't do that anymore. And so that's kind of when I exited stage left out of that profession. But my question to you is kind of not that process so much on an individual basis, but collectively, have you noticed a shift over the last 20 years? Are you still feeling that people need that, or have we sort of as a group collectively, are we moving beyond this, or is it just that I'm not focused on it anymore?
No, I think it's a little bit of both, because quite frankly, I'll get a stretch of 10 plus years of nothing. And
Okay.
recently that's been like that. And then in the last couple of podcasts in the last 6 months, I've mentioned exorcisms. And then I have like a line of like 80 people that are like, over here, I need your help. And so it becomes a societal norm, raising the collective, that conscious awareness starts to reflect within what is the consensus. So I've never seen as many aliens in people's auric fields as I have in the last couple of maybe 5 or 10 years. Before that, I wouldn't see one. Yeah. And now it seems to be quite common. And I speak to a lot of my peers, channelers or energy healers, psychics, mediums, whatever. And they're starting to recognize that there is a common theme going on here, where there's more and more presence of this type of energy. Now, it doesn't have to be good or bad. It just is. Yet, I believe that it's a method that doesn't have to be limited to something ominous. Yet, through the test of time, we craft our reality through the collective of what would be the current ice cream flavor. And, the ice cream flavor right now is more self-awakening to your ability to channel. And I think that is a beautiful thing also. Yet, again, people want to dismiss the foundational aspect, which I think you and I have gone over, that it doesn't, as much as you dismiss it, it shows itself. Because the first thing I ask someone is, how do you feel at the end of your day? Exhausted. Okay, so we need to fill your cup up, and we need to make sure that there's a never-ending flow, and there's some fundamental things that I could suggest to you that will help you maintain that resonance, so that it's not dipping, that you are who you say you are, and not just a figment of your imagination, which is where the rubber meets the road for, I think, a lot of people. They get caught up in the persona, and we've talked about this through this conversation, yet many people, they're not really living it. And so, when resonance precedes you is when you're in the presence of, say, a Dalai Lama or someone that has literally surrendered their life to emanating a resonance that is of divinity. And no matter where you are, the second you mention that person's name, you are remembering. You're returning to wholeness, right? You feel it. Like the union we're having right now, the supercharge we're getting through our bodies, our auras are emanating. It's because it's a collective thing, and we're all remembering this wholeness. Yet many people, it's like, I want to be this way. And there's a process. It's part of your own healing is to experience these things. If I see a student that gets a little too obsessed with certain type of healings or levels of alchemy, I'll always remind them, it's like, you've now obtained this wholeness, continue to move and expand and hold that note that is never ending, rather than be obsessed with, I remember doing it back in the day, like when I first discovered all this stuff. I had a railroad of literally 7 days of everything from never meditating before to stopping sound to channeling my teacher I still commune with on a second-by-second basis, which is referred to a dialogue to a monologue of pure source. Some people call it Akashic, calls it memento, whatever you want to refer to it. It's about obtaining information now that is relevant for everyone's well-being as wholeness. And you go through this, but you see, I did. When I first witnessed a physical healing, I took a moment, and it was like, no, I can't share this with anyone. I can only be the next coming of Jesus. I'm the only one. And, your personality is met with this reverence that is beyond words, right? And it took me about a second. Now, I was surprised. I thought I was going to go on, I'm going to withhold this for months and weeks and years, because, I was doing things like, my favorite thing to do was taking sebaceous cysts and raising them to the top of the skin and popping them like a zit. And it was a thing for me for a while. I was entertained by it, but thankfully through my own muse and my teacher, Lao Tzu, he moved me through that rather than, I mean, watching flesh transform between your eyes. That's an exciting thing. And it is. When you first experience it, you're like, holy moly, this is real. And in a lot of people that are experiencing psychonautic experiences right now get a temporary taste of something that is potential, because I always attribute it to the same thing. I've never dived in the deep end, having to distort my perception, attempting to find that, because you can create that alchemy within you. I'm not dismissing it, because everyone has their own path. It's when you find a crutch where you continue having to use that to open the door for your own healing, it always diminishes in return, and people end up going, why did I do that? Well, that's part of your own healing. And now we can get on and continue to remember who you are. But it was fun at the time. But I felt like I got to a place really oppressed and depressed in this little wet little corner somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And it would only, Harry Potter would only come out every time I got a pop of a mushroom, ayahuasca. And, you know, you have to experience it for yourself. It's not for myself, or I imagine your teaching will be similar. For us to, we can be the arbiters of, not the harbors of the same thing, yet we're not here to tell you what to do or not what to do. It's about remembering yourself. I find it fascinating how people get into little corners and they're like, well, why didn't you tell me? That's part of you remembering and becoming whole. You're kind of half-baked. You want to be fully cooked. You have to complete the cycle.
Yeah.
People are like, oh my goodness, but that would have been useful. It was like that scene from Wedding Singer. Have you ever seen the movie Wedding Singer with Adam Sandler?
Oh, no, I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a scene where he said something and he said, that would have been useful yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so did that answer your question? I'm not sure whether I answered.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, actually, even in the first few moments, I caught the energy that I was looking for. Like, you showed me the energy. You talked about it too, but I got everything in the first moments right there. It's like, got it.
Yeah, I'm bathing right now for all my students and explorers of potential. This is not a conversation; it's an experience. Which really, this is one of the things that really completes me and warms my heart when I have conversations with incredible wisdom teachers like yourself with such humility. Yet, you know, you're softening the blow of that sober realization of wholeness. It's an eternal itself. And then, you know, you have such a beautiful way, an eloquent way of delivering that, which is, you know, people just can't believe that it can be as simplistic and as beautiful as this present moment. And they're like, oh, no, it's my party. I need to cry if I want to. Okay.
It's surprising. That's one thing I really love about the spirit mind training with Hisami, is that it's remarkably simple. Like it doesn't need to be complicated, because everything you need to know is already there. Everything is present. So it's just, there's a little bit of artistry to helping people kind of turn down one thing so they can hear another, and like, you know, kind of walking alongside somebody and long enough to like then say, hey, do you want to stop and go a different direction? You know, there's technique and artistry to it, but there's no like serious magical, you know, 100 things you have to learn or memorize, or, you know, that's not none of that's necessary. I love the simplicity of the spirit mind teaching with Hisami. Just that she's I'm kind of her biggest fan. And she's my wife. It's great.
Yeah, I was looking at that briefly. It looks like an amazing program too. You know, maybe, I don't know what maybe she'd like to come on and have a conversation about it, or is it? Oh,
Hisami is not fluent in English, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would.
It makes it harder.
Yeah, we'll put that flow of energy out there, so it's like we can pick it up. It's it's a beautiful, beautiful remembrance.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the most ancient tools within Taoism is the alchemy, and then it translates into the poetry. And that's really where we refer to that as the rhapsody and the remedy. And that's where we go deep. It's like you take that ethereal, primordial state and you encapsulate it in a vehicle that then delivers that potency of wholeness.
Yeah.
And poetry is such a beautiful way to do it.
Yeah. I love that we're all in the space right now of really helping each other. And even if people don't know it, like every little piece of you where you're tuning in and getting a little aha moment or sort of lining up and having more coherence, that's affecting the people around you. And the other is true too. If I'm grumpy or worn out or not enjoying myself, that's affecting people around me too. But it can be as simple as saying, hey, I'm just going to give myself a break. I'm going to like fill myself up. Like you said, I'm going to start to live in a way that I'm just going to have one day where I feel really good. Boom, that can change everything, because that gives your partner the freedom, your kids the freedom, everybody to like be with you in that energized, pure space. Like it's just funny. One person, lines up and everybody else can line up. It's automatic. We all want that. We do it automatically. We just forget because the sort of external chaos, all the other signals are so intriguing and feel so real. But it can just be that simple. Yeah.
Just the here and the now.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that. Yeah. Well, this has been an absolute delight and an enchanted little nook, a cozy place to be, and I feel very grateful to share space with you, my dear friend.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been delightful. I'm going to put your social sphere and interweb under this podcast, and I want everyone to go out and explore all your offerings, including your wife. I think you can find her training through your website. So, is there anything you want to share with the audience? Do you teach just exclusively groups, or what is the sort of way that someone can connect with you?
Yeah, well, right now all my teaching is online. Okay. And so if you're a Mindvalley student or a member, you can find me there. I've got a couple programs there. Otherwise, you can find on spiritmind.com, find all the work with my wife, Hisami, and I. That's coming out, my latest passion, that project. And the live stuff we do is basically with people who've already gone through the program and are kind of have the basic vocabulary and some experience. Then we do live healing circles where we get together. We just sort of feel the energy together. We work on, helping people that are in need. But it's not about thinking or learning or even talking so much. It's just about sharing that energy together and that vibration. And so at this point, that's, my live work is primarily that. Occasionally I'll do a workshop here and there, but online is the way to find me. Okay,
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you again, my dear friend. I feel like we reconnected.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, it's been great. I want to thank you. I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. I'm your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.